Hello everybody and welcome to the Brony Show interviews, our first and hopefully a long line of side interviews that we're going to be doing for all of you. Of course, we've done interviews on the Brony Show itself, but we've never done them outside of the Brony Show proper, and now that we're hoping that we can get a lot of great interviews, and we already have, starting off with an incredible artist. We have Jowybean here, who has done a lot of the... And suddenly my brain just exploded.
Title cards.
Title cards! I wanted to say storyboard cards, but I knew that was completely wrong. Title cards of a lot of MLP episodes, plus some incredible art that just pops into your face. I guess Jowy's in England, so I guess good evening, Jowy.
Hello, I am English. Hello. How are you, sir? I'm speaking. Sorry, I had to open with a 40 Towers reference.
Yes, unfortunately, there's a little bit of lag in the Skype call, but it doesn't mean we're gonna stop doing this. So let's go ahead and get started. Got plenty to ask an incredible artist. And Deal, do you have the first question ready?
I do. So just as a general intro for you, can you just tell us a little about yourself and who is Jowybean?
Okay, where am I going to begin with this? Well, obviously, if it's already obvious, I'm an artist, and outside of the Pony fandom, I'm like a freelance illustrator and artist, and I've been doing it all my life. To sort of give a bit more brief introduction, I want to kind of keep this simple because I know you guys can't be here forever, but I'm going to try and keep the story of my life as simple as possible because it's quite elaborate and there's a lot of bits and pieces to it, but I'll try and keep it simple so it isn't too over the top. Basically, I'm going to admit this as well, but I actually have mild autism, and this actually plays a role into how I became an artist, because when I was younger, I used to spend a lot of time just sketching and doodling in nursery, just going blah, 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 like with pencils and pens and whatnot. And as I sort of got older, like most kids, watching cartoons and whatnot, I started to watch stuff like, I didn't have this potion pat, a lot of like cartoons that everyone else watched. But my parents started to notice that as I started to like draw, I would put much more details. Like with most kids, they just draw like the major Teletubby characters and just call it a day. I was going into like details by drawing every little bit of flower, the creepy sun, the spyglass, microphone things. I would always tell things, and anyway. And then after that, my parents started to notice that maybe he might be good at. Maybe we should like expand his hobby. So they took me to an art therapy course, and this is when it went really strange, and when the story gets a bit more interesting, because while all the other kids were taught to draw like still life stuff, the stuff you do in high school most of the time, I was normally drawing big elaborate scenes, and I'm talking about an A3 piece of paper. My art teacher was telling me to draw like pots and pans and like really detailed pieces of bowls of fruit, and I was drawing elaborate scenes of like these little bean and like human characters walking out of a McDonald's, going across like a freeway to a giant stadium in the corner, like literal minute detail. And she was like really impressed with the artwork that she decided to give me like my own little show there at the center where I was working at the time, where the course was. And the person who framed the work, I'm sorry, this is a long story, I'm trying to keep it short as possible. The framer who was framing the work was like really impressive work. He showed it to a gallery owner who was like owned a gallery in the center of Birmingham, which is the city I come from, and he was really impressed with the work, and he was much more like astounded when he found out, because I was 9 at the time when this happened. I was about 9 and 8 when this happened. It was very unusual for any 9-year-old boy at this time to be drawing with this sort of detail and this sort of imagination, and so it was very unknown, especially in England, for someone like this. And pretty much I met the gallery owner after the show, and he was like, hey, I want to give you a private showing of some work. I said, okay. And after the next 5 years, it was pretty hectic, because on top of doing shows, one of the biggest achievements I ever actually did, which I still hold true to today, was I actually helped raise money for the 9/11 victims by auctioning off a piece I did based off just the Twin Towers on a normal New York day. I'd never actually heard of the city, sadly, until after the tragedy. But after that, I felt like really passionate to help out, that I actually helped auction off a piece for the victims. In fact, the firefighters from Harlem actually came over to congratulate me and give me a plaque commemorating my achievements for helping them out in the tragedy. And breathers in between here because there's a lot to say. And after that, I also was like appearing on small TV as well, because again, it was very unknown for a 9-year-old autistic kid to have this talent. It was just very unusual, so that's why there was a lot of press around it. So I had like shows in London. At one point, I had South Korea TV over. Canada came over to do a show at one point. You know, it was pretty hectic for like a young kid at this time. And you know, it just went from there really. So I kept doing more charity stuff, and then sort of to jump ahead a bit quicker, trying. I was then in high school, and although I sort of went through my fan phase there, because I was a lot of like Billy and Mandy, Sonic, real big Sonic fan, ridiculous big Sonic fan. I didn't want to go into that detail, honestly. Simpsons. Then I also I actually did like 2 GCSEs in art as well, and passed with flying colours because my teachers knew that was what I was passionate about. And then interestingly enough, I went to college and did 3 years for graphics, and in the end it was interesting because my tutor basically my tutor came over and said, "Hey Josh, you know what you're better at doing illustration." I was like, "Okay, I'll go to university and do illustration." And also it's sort of relevant to where I am now because that's when the ponies came in. Like when I was supposed to be focusing on my coursework, actually doing my illustration work, I was too busy listening to Winter Rapper and wanting to watch, you know, Feeling Pinky Keen like twice or 3 times, or how many times I saw that first episode. So that was an interesting part of my life when I officially became a Brony, because there's no real life. A friend of mine just told me about the show, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then pretty much after that, the rest is history. So the Cycle cards just blew up from there, and I said I've been to the first big convention, the UK Buck, and now I'm doing it again this year. So yeah, that's the basics of my life.
Now that's quite a story. That's
I know. It is quite a story, which is why I don't usually tell people about it, because it's time consuming as well. I mean, there's like little pieces here and there, but that's like the basics to keep it to the brief of how I became an artist. Also, actually, honestly, my dad. Actually, I'll give a little bit of history, because my dad was actually going to work for Marvel when he was younger. Like, he was a really good artist at a young age. And he went over to New York when he was 17. And he was sort of gave me inspiration in art, because he went over to Marvel to try and actually illustrate for them, because he's really good at it. But he got turned down by Frank Miller's girlfriend and went for an interview and came back to England. But he like passed on some of his sort of art, because we're both sort of artists in our own right. Like, he's much more of a writer nowadays, but I do credit my dad for giving me some of the inspiration for art. So yeah.
All right. Then when you were learning how to do all this stuff for school, did you do digital? Did you do it digitally back then, or did you try more of the traditional stuff?
No, I'm very much one of those quote like pen artists. So I spent a lot of time. Actually, I learned to draw in pen before I actually learned to draw in pencil. Like, a lot of my earlier stuff, if you ever went through, if you just typed in Joshua Whitehouse art, you see a lot of my stuff was like, you sort of wear Waldo's sort of elaborate pictures with like these little bean characters, which also appear on my logo. The little bean character you see on my logo, he's like the first ever cartoon character I created. But anyway, to answer the question, yeah, I've always actually been a traditionally trained artist, and I went through a phase, especially in college and university, where I remember at one point that I was actually learning to draw with chocolate and chewing gum. Like, I was that sort of mad artist. I was like experimenting with like ridiculous amount of media when I was really young. And I did write painting at one point, but I had some bad experience of oils, because it took me 3 hours to clear up a mess I made. So I don't want to use oils again.
Well, now you've put ideas in my head.
Really?
You gotta start doing like Pinkie Pie and cotton candy or something.
I'll be tempted to do that. It's honestly down to patience. That's part of the reason. And then also because I went into university and I learned about the digital age of art and like researched into it. And then I also subscribe to a magazine called Imagine Effects, which if anyone in the crack chat knows as an artist, they possibly use it as well. It's like a fantasy art and sci-fi magazine that's really good if you ever want to learn about like the proper way of actually getting into those industries. But I've been looking at the magazine ever since, and it's really helped with my digital work over the last few years, because I started doing it in and actually, honestly, I think some of my earlier stuff was ponies. Honestly, my first few digital pieces, the ones I remember the most, because I've done so much over the last 4 years. The worst thing sometimes as an artist is that when you, especially as a traditional artist, if you sketch so much in high school and in college, and you go back through like your box full of your scraps, because you're like me and you keep everything, and it's the worst time ever because you just don't want to throw away anything. I mean, I've had to be really ruthless because I haven't got a lot of room at the moment in my room to put all this stuff away. So that's probably the reason why I also do digital as well. But I did start as a traditional artist, and I still, with some of the people, and I still do traditional on occasion. So yeah.
You should get that stuff scanned, man, so you can keep it.
Oh, I did at one point until my hard drive died recently, which was sad, but I managed to get it back up. So I don't know what I'll back it up anyway. Yeah. Sorry, I go between a lot of conversations.
That's fine. We can bounce around too.
Backwards and forwards. That's pretty much me.
That's fine. What you said that you just inspired a lot as a kid by the shows you watched. What were some of the shows that influenced your title card series so much?
I guess some of the biggest ones I can think of. I would say Looney Tunes, but Looney Tunes title cards, because I watch a lot of old cartoon shorts. I'm still very much one of those people who goes back and watches like old cartoon shorts. So even like student projects, because I've got like a folder full of it. But I would say mostly Ren and Stimpy because they were the most visually title cards. But then Ed and Eddie as well, Dexter's Lab, obviously. I'm trying to think of some of the shows because there were a couple of the shows. Mucha Lucha, I know there's quite a few people who despise that show.
Mucha Lucha, yes.
And that was actually, yes, I've actually got that on my, well, but I used to, but in fact, I've actually got some of the title cards printed on my wall as well, just off the internet because I used to love that show a lot. But yeah, I would say because title cards series just came out of nowhere because I was at the point where when I started out with doing ponies, just to change the subject, it sort of goes back to the title cards thing. But I was trying to do a lot of show accurate stuff, like I think most people were at the start. Like I went to do like proper vectors and I'd spend ages on it. And then when I started watching old cartoons again and looking at the title card, I was like, I haven't seen anyone really try this. So I'm feeling Picky Keen was the first episode where I was like after I saw Twilight Catch Fire and stuff, I was like, okay, I'm into this show now. Just because of that little guy, because it actually reminds me of just to be really geeky for a second, but it reminds me of a guy where Porky Pig literally caught on fire and burnt to a crisp. Because Daffy Duck was pissing him off, but it was just really funny, and it sort of reminded me of that. And I think from there, it was mostly a Ren and Stimpy, and I'd say Ed and Eddie that sort of gave me the idea, the sort of comedic title cards, because they started out with a very simple style when you look at the series, and obviously as it's progressed, some of them changed with the different styles and different references put in them. But yeah, I would say that mostly a lot of the Cartoon Network shows that did title cards. But then, although I would say Looney Tunes as well, but Looney Tunes was much more sort of with the words and the visuals most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
But, I got Snow Pea stuck in my head now.
Good stuff, yes.
Now I noticed that I don't think I've seen a title card yet that's traditional. So I was wondering why is digital seem to be your oh man, I can't talk today. Why does digital seem to be your preferred medium for the title cards?
It sort of goes back to what I said about my media earlier, about my experimentation. I had a lot of fun, during my college and, university life playing around with, say, chocolate and what else I would play around with. But I sort of found that digital it's practical for a lot of reasons. For starters, any concert artist will tell you that it saves a lot of time from getting. I mean, there is a big reward if you do traditional. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not giving much away, but I do want to do. I have got some plans for some future title cards to do them traditionally because I think it would suit the episode well. But it was sort of convenience. It's really convenience, but it's also because you can do so much with Photoshop, just getting the amount of brushes, the amount of effects, the amount of color you can get from there without making a big mess in your parents' house. It really does help. It really does. It does save on a lot of the cleaning time because then all you have to do is just get rid of the layer just by deleting it, or using comps as they do in, which is where you sort of have different stages of the process where you can sort of go back to a comp and then reuse that rather than if you made a mistake. Which is the one, it's really for practical reasons I use digital, but as I've got better at my digital painting over the last, almost few months, to be perfectly honest, I've just been really used to using digital. Although I have done a couple of traditional pieces as well, especially a few pony pieces that I've done with what I call my pro markers, which are like coloured markers that sometimes people use cons for like sketch cards. You know, when you see like sketch cards of like Marvel characters or like comic characters, they tend to have like sketch cards with those sort of pro markers. I think it's a little bit. I don't think it's the same media that Andy Price uses, but I think it's a little bit similar to his. But it's not the same. But yeah.
It's pretty, like, I don't think I've ever had someone explain it that way, where it's just like, oh, it's just really clean and easy, which, you know, is common sense. I need to ask people that more often, like, why they prefer what they prefer.
Yeah, it's just a much more easier process. Granted, there is something. I mean, some of my favorite, my biggest inspirations are actually traditional artists, but especially when you look through magazines or you look through concept art, sometimes it's so difficult to tell the difference between it being traditional, because you can create brushes that could look like watercolors, or you can create brushes that look like, you know, like charcoal or anything. There's so many options, and I guess it's just there's no limitation to what you can do with Photoshop or Sketchbook Pro or any of the other programs that I can't remember the names of at the moment, because I only use Photoshop.
So Photoshop's your primary tool of choice.
Yes.
Have you tried it?
I mean, I've had experience. I have had experience with like Illustrator and stuff, but that's usually been for when I've done like a work experience and stuff. Because I have done a couple of jobs, graphic jobs, where I have learned. Because I am actually decently good at graphics. I could actually do graphics, but I'm just so passionate about the art and the stuff I do here that it's just much more suited to me. I'm very much one of those what you call a pretty picture artist. Do pretty pictures because I like it. I'm not like those artists with a deep like connection to art or why I do it. It's just like I like creating crazy juxtaposing illustrations and just lots of beautiful weird art. And that's the sort of way I sum it up. But I have used Illustrator, and I did try Sketchbook Pro a couple of months ago, like a trial of it. But I'm sort of lazy in a way, although I am trying to get rid of that laziness as well by trying different media, or at least doing, because I only have started using like a lot more texture brushes in my Photoshop. With some of the recent title cards I put a lot more texture into some of the characters, like in the for goodness sake, what is the blooming episode with her looking like Metal Gear Solid character? How can I forget the name of it? Oh, About Time. That was it. Yes.
Right on time, Circuit.
Sorry. I'm just trying to work on something here in the background that's starting to glitch up before it breaks everything.
Oh, I was saying It's About Time wallpaper. I said that.
Oh yeah, that's just my natural dumb good luck.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, but I was just saying that I just used a lot of texture in that one, especially for like the sign itself, for like the title card itself, because it's supposed to be obviously a parody of the Back to the Future poster. So, because I thought that was perfect. I just thought that had to be for About Time episode, because some of the title cards like are planned differently. Some of them I just do on a whim. Others I will actually get my references for, because I have a good idea, especially for one of the more like detailed ones. And so I tend to. What I tend to do is I tend to go and get all my references I'm going to use for the episodes, and then for parts of the episodes, and then I will. The other thing I've also actually started to do is actually make proper fonts. In the earlier title cards, all I did was just actually make the font myself, which is why some of them are really horrible. I mean, the Wonderbolts Academy one, don't even get me started on that terrible drawn font. Ugh. Need to go and fix it one day. Anyway. But yeah, I started like making fonts out of the actual like fonts that actually I can't remember the poor artist who gave me it, but one of the artists on DA actually gave me a link to the actual font they use in the show. So you know, the little written credits font, that's Wood wrote the actual font they use in the show. But I'm so sorry, I can't remember the artist who gave me that. I'll have to try and give him credit if I can remember at some point. But yeah.
Let's see, have you done title cards for anything other than the show episodes?
This sort of goes into one of those sort of categories where I say like my future things, because I've been watching a lot of anime recently. I've sort of become a bit of an otaku just in the last like few months. And the last anime I watched was Kill la Kill, and I actually do like a sort of idea for a title card based on the first episode of that. Because the thing is, I mean, I've really enjoyed doing the pony stuff, but now I think I did actually do it for like a Yogscast episode. So I'm not sure if you guys know about Yogscast, but they're like a really big YouTube video and stuff. They did a Shadow of Israfel and stuff, really popular like Minecraft adventure map, and I tend to watch their videos a lot because Anyway, sorry, got lost there. But I did like a title card version of that because I think the title cards is a very unique idea in itself because not many artists do it unless you're like employed by Cartoon Network or you work for shows like that. There's no real other artists doing the title cards, which is why it's good I sort of jumped on when I did and had a go at doing the title cards, and it sort of just took off from there. But after doing the pony stuff, I definitely have ideas of doing ones for other shows, for other popular cartoons and anime as well, because I think it could work really well for some anime shows like Kill la Kill or I'm trying to think of some others like One Piece. I haven't quite seen it yet, but I haven't seen the show yet, but I assume that One Piece could do well with title cards. But obviously, I'd have to spend like 9 years of my life watching the entire series. It's not something I plan to do anytime soon. Sorry, One Piece fans. I'll get to it eventually, one day.
You don't have to worry about it. It's not 9 years. It's more like 5 years and 5 years and maybe a few anniversaries.
5 years of my life just watching a show about spot pirates. That sounds amazing. Even though I think I would lose a lot of it.
Speaking of anime, I want to go back to watching Gintama. That looks like such a fun show.
Yeah. Well, speaking of anime, actually one of my biggest guilty pleasures is actually Lucky Star. I started watching anime like that was the first anime I watched this year, and I think I've watched that show like 6 or 7 times through because I just find it so adorable and just stupidly fun. And I even actually did some title card ideas for that. So yeah, so in general, I'm thinking of doing title cards for a lot of other shows, but ones I've actually watched because I'm not one of those people that I want to just go and do like title cards for One Piece because for the sake of it. Like the reason why the title cards work for MLP is because one, I'm a Brony, and so I know the references, and two, I put a lot of subtle references and I put a lot of effort into trying to make it look like proper, like family friendly ones as well. Because people. I do get comments on the Pinky, Party of One title card because people think it's a little bit scary for kids because it is literally Pinkamina's soulless eyes staring into your soul in the dark.
Wasn't that whole episode a freaking trip anyway? I mean, she's basically losing her mind while everybody's watching.
True, but the way I did the title card, it's like some sort of like twisted like version of Tim Burton if he somehow took ponies. Like it's just like a giant eye. Like the only thing, like it's like you're looking at Pinkamena. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but it's like you're looking into the doorway, and you just see like Pinkamena's like giant white eyes staring in it. It's just like really beady as well. And I think people said that doesn't sound quite safe, but then I can understand what you're saying with considering that she did almost go loony pretty much in that episode. Crazy.
Yeah, and it's a break from the norm in that it's not something cupcake related for that episode. Like, thank you.
If anything, that was.
The only good thing I like about Cupcakes is that actually it introduced me to Andrew WK's awesome music. That's the only thing I'm going to say good about Cupcakes. Because the animation that someone did, they had Get Ready to Die, and that song was stuck in my head for a long, long time. And that all the time, they Get Ready to Die.
I can't decide whether you... Dang it.
Get ready to die.
Oh, you're talking about a different one. I was talking about that little...
It was the animation done by Mr. Dave, the guy who did the Smile HD.
Oh, dear world. That video haunts me forever.
Yeah.
You actually want to know...
Go ahead.
Just quick... Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, one fun fact I actually think is that, in the episode... This is going to get really geeky and Brony here for a second. But the Pinky Pride episode, and when she, says to Cheese Sandwich, I challenge you to a goof-off! I swear that is done by Mr. Davey. If you've seen Mr. Davey's, animations, guys, I'm pretty sure it looks like his stuff. It really does. I'm sorry, I just thought I'd bring up that little detail that I think Mr. Davey does actually work for the show, considering it looks so much like his style. Yeah.
I honestly would be too surprised. It was completely off of their normal animation, just the expression and everything.
Yeah. That episode was completely off anything I think they've done before. For one, it was Weird Al, and two, the live action segments, which I absolutely adore.
That was beautiful. Even a little bit of a... sorry, go ahead.
Nothing, I was just quoting Thank you for there. Please go ahead. My bad.
Nah, I gotta admit, it was even funny having Weird Al parody one of Pinky's song right in the middle of the whole goof off thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's become one of my favourite songs after the whole of season 4. Honestly, just the songs in that episode, because it reminded me a lot of the Magical Mystery Cure, but with Pinky, which is always a win in my opinion.
True, I can definitely catch that.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you how you plan out a title card when you want to do one. Like, what are the steps you take?
Okay, yeah, it's sort of it depends on the ones I'm working on. Like, for example, I'm going to give you a bit, you know, the, not About Time, for goodness sake, the other 12 episode where she goes crazy, Lesson Zero, I was about to say Twilight Time for some reason, but that one where she goes completely crazy, I even actually put a link to it in my description, but that's actually based off an adult party Ren and Stimpy cartoon called Ren Goes Wild. What was it? For goodness sake, I watched it recently. It basically, surprise, surprise, Ren goes mad and, you know, basically, but the title card is literally this really demented John K. Standard, like, Ren screaming his head off, but looking really distorted and stressed. And I thought that would work well for the title card, except not that exact expression, because there he looks like he's completely demented, and Twilight just look a little bit more crazy, but not like she'd scare the children, because it is a pretty scary picture of Ren. It was actually my Skype icon for a few weeks as well, because I thought it was that funny. Anyway, and I just thought that would work really well for the episode. And then I sort of had looking a bit of cubism as well, because also outside of ponies, I look at a lot of different art styles and history of art and stuff. And I decided I wanted to put some of that cubist type stuff in there. So that's why it's a little bit blocky and a little bit jagged around the edges.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's and then it. Go ahead.
But then for some of the other ones, sorry. You go ahead first.
I forget that lag. I forget that lag is there. I was saying, go ahead and finish your thought.
I think I was just going to say that for some of the earlier ones, like some of the ones like the Griffin the Brush Off and Green Isn't Your Colour, I went for a bit more of a comedic sort of. Yeah, actually, Rocco's Modern Life. That was it. Yeah, of course, Rocco's Modern Life actually did have title cards. I just remembered that, and they were quite comedic ones. So yeah, for those sort of title cards, some of them have a bit more of a comedic value, like the Dog and Pony, Show. That one, you know, with the dancing. That was a lot of fun to do. Mm-hmm. Because I was thinking of the dancing frog from Looney Tunes when I was doing that.
The dancing frog. I haven't seen that thing in forever. That's nostalgia.
Yeah. I was going to say Dancing Penguin, but then I realised that was a different character. It was like an episode where Bugs had to like bring a penguin back to the South Pole, and it was like really silent and everything. It was a really funny episode as well. There was like one part where Bugs is like thinks he's got the this is like Mel Blanc at his best as well. So he thinks he's got the penguin off to the South Pole, and then he has a random captain in the background saying, "Oh, there's the ship heading for Brooklyn," and he just goes, "Brooklyn." Sorry.
That's fine, man.
That was a bad impression. I can't do impressions to save my life, but I love voice actors anyway, so I quote them a lot.
I evidently can't do an impression for more than like 3 seconds. I feel so bad for our blind readings.
At least your impressions aren't so horrible that they.
Every other of my British.
Sorry, go right ahead.
I feel bad because all my other British friends are like really good at doing interpreting other accents across the UK. I can't do any others apart from where I'm actually from. And Birmingham actually have like an accent of our own. Like instead of saying goodbye, we say "ta-ra" a bit. Are you all right, love? But I can't do that at all. Sort of inside knowledge for Birmingham. I was interested. Well, you did say it was going to be random. I did say I was random earlier.
Well, it's definitely a little bit more random than I expected. But okay then.
It's quite.
Do you have anything you want to ask off the top of your head, Circuit?
I do. Just to get a little bit into the technical side of things, what software do you use to do your digital art?
Photoshop.
Oh, he did mention Photoshop several times, didn't he? Okay then.
Well, I could think with more specific because I do certain methods. I mean it's Photoshop 6 I use most of the time, and I do actually use like certain. I tend to use just like hard, because one of the things I've actually learned about using brushes, especially when you're doing digital painting, is that you don't want to use soft brushes. This is also advice to anyone who's listening who wants to get into digital art. Always make sure you use like the hard brush. Don't use the soft brush, because you can end up making things look very misty and very foggy. And the best way, if you want to get like real good depth, you just you do it all in black and white, because like for some of the title cards, I actually were all in black and white first. I'm thinking the Hurricane Fluttershy, that was all done in black and white originally because I was trying to get the values, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's like the contrast between light and dark, which I'm sure if you've done anything to do with art, you'd understand what that sort of means. But it's sort of like where you learn about the contrast of light and dark, and so I do it all in black and white first with like the hard brush, and then if I've got a particular style I'm going for, especially with digital painting, I will use like lots of different texture brushes from other artists and people on DA and those sort of sites. And I sometimes won't even use, like I won't always, like when I'm doing foliage, I won't actually use like a foliage, like a plant brush to create plants. I'll actually go and find like a wildlife brush that has like some sort of fur, because fur can actually create some really nice effects for drawing plants and whatnot. And actually, just quickly, a shameless plug for today as well. I just actually uploaded a piece today, which actually like a newest digital pony painting I've done. It's like Fluttershy in front of a mill, but like all the textures in there are like made out of like these sort of wildlife stand brushes. Like they're all supposed to be like feathers and fur when you really look up close, but from a distance they make really good like effects for like using for plants and whatnot. I mean, in general, I mainly just use Photoshop. I don't really use anything else particular. And I mean, if we're talking about outside of technical terms when it comes to traditional art, like I will sometimes use my pro markers, because I've done a couple of pony pieces and also a couple of sketches of that have been with like different pencils and pens. I mean, I'm not very specific with the ones that I usually use, apart from if it's pro markers when I'm using them for color experiments, because I do want to get better at doing traditional painting and stuff. That's a goal of mine, but I need to have a studio to do that, because I don't have any room in my own house to do it at the moment. But yeah, generally it's usually just Photoshop stuff I usually use, nothing special, but I just use different kind of methods and techniques that I've learned from looking through, as I said earlier, the Imagine FX magazine, and just looking at other artists online, because there's too many damn artists in this community, too many of them. Excuse my language, but...
There may be a lot of artists, but you definitely stand above a lot of them. I don't see many with pieces in the Brony Art Museum, or able to just capture people's imaginations with the title cards. But
well, the thing is, for me, is that, I mean, I got into the show because of the visuals. Like, I originally just got into it because, oh, it's adorable and it's funny and it's really kind of cute and just very colourful to look at, very pleasing. Much better than doing Gothic art when I was younger. No offence to people who do Gothic art. Anyway, I went on tangent there. But then as I sort of got more into the fandom and stuff, I started to see other artists. I feel really ashamed. I feel almost disrespecting. The only other artist I really know of quite well is Assassin Monkey. He's like a really amazing artist, like one of the best artists I've seen in the fandom. And he also does like work in processes of his pictures, which I really should start doing myself. A little shout out to him as well. But like stuff like his, because he puts like a lot of depth and like depth perception into the world, and gives a lot of like character to like, you know, like environments and stuff. And that's all what I do in my own pieces. Like, I love the style of the show, but personally for me, I always find it a little bit, I don't know, it always narks me when we get up like close-up shots and it's just like a big flat like coloured background right in like behind. Like, I'm really much an artist for detail. So whenever I do any pony pieces from now on, I try and put a lot of depth into the world of Equestria, and I take it to different places. So like, there's a famous piece I did of like the mayor walking out of the town hall. Although actually, when you look at it now, it doesn't make any sense to the actual geography of the entire building. But it's like her like coming out of the office like at sunset, and there's like a janitor pony in the background cleaning with like the wet sign that you get. And it's just the small details. Like, it's the small details that I like in the fandom art, which I always check out the Draw Friends no matter what. That's the one thing I always check out. But I always make sure to put that amount of detail, because in my own artwork, if anyone's ever interested, I juxtapose and I put a lot of different styles of art and because I'm inspired by a lot of different things, like anything from like history to animation to the internet to different cultures to pretty much everything. I mean, my room is almost like a hub because my entire walls are just filled with like pictures and things I've just printed out over the years and just stuck on as inspiration. So, you know, I just.
One thing actually crossed my mind that I don't think we did get an answer for just yet. When you do digital art, do you do it by mouse or do you have a tablet? And then if you do have a tablet, what kind is it?
I have a Wacom tablet. Well, the recent one I've got is a Pro tablet. I used to have a Wacom 5 tablet, but it broke a few weeks ago, which was fun. And I just got a new one a couple of weeks ago. It's still the same one. I did actually get a couple of like spare pens as well, like an airbrush pen and stuff to try and try some different effects as well. But I've mainly used the Wacom tablet ever since the first time I ever got into digital. Because I think I did try with a mouse. To be perfectly honest, I guess I could be technical and say that my first ever digital art was like on MS Paint, but I guess any artist could say that because if you go through my gallery's history, you'll find all I was doing before I was known as anything was doing mainly just terrible SpongeBob art and Billy and Mandy art, like just out of MS Paint. So that's like, I guess if we want to be really technical, that's like my earliest digital art. But then when I got a tablet in my second year of university, I just like fell in love with it and just kept with that tablet. I know there's like other tablets where you can like see, because mine is sort of like where it's not one of the screen tablets, it's just like a basic tablet. But I've got so used to it that I just use that from now on. I don't really use any other particular tablets or technology apart from that. But it works fine for me. It works well for what I want to do and what I want to achieve. I mean, I would at some point maybe want to try other tablets and other software, as I mentioned before, but you know, it's all very practical. I'm very a practical artist. I don't buy expensive equipment just for the sake of it. I mean, you know, obviously tablets are not cheap. They do cost a bomb sometimes, but you know, for what you get pretty good, high quality pieces. Mm-hmm. As long as you get used to as long as you get used to using them and stuff like that.
Okay. Deal, do you have any other questions or?
Yeah, actually, I was curious about the pieces you had done before you got in the fandom. Do you have any pictures or examples of the art that's gone to galleries or for the piece that was auctioned off for 9/11?
Yes, honestly, if you just typed in fact, honestly, because just in the last few weeks or so, I mean, I've actually been slowing down a bit with the Brony art recently, partly because Season 4 is gone now, sad face, but mostly just because I've actually been trying to like expand on my own professional stuff as well. So I actually do have, I mean, I have it in my DA as well, but I'm on a site called Behance, which is where you can see a lot of my other illustration work if anyone's interested in seeing what my stuff is outside of pony art, because it is a lot more different. It's way out of the league of anything to do with ponies. But if you just typed in like Joshua Whitehouse, I mean, I don't usually like to say my own name because I think Jowybean is a much cooler name to say, but if you just typed in my real name, Joshua Whitehouse, and then art, you'd be able to get to my galleries and you'd be able to see pieces from there. I have put out a couple of the pieces on my DA at some point, but you need to go through my 107-page gallery to find it. And that means you'd have to go through my phase of Sally Acorn art and Lisa Simpson art, which I don't want anyone ever to see, ever. But yeah, if you just typed in that, you'd be able to find it, no problem. Just by typing in my real name, Whitehouse. Because it is out online. It's not the best high quality. I mean, maybe I would start putting some of my old stuff in, because I do sort of neglect the past in a way, because well, one, I'm getting older, and you know, I'm in a new phase now with my art, and I'm a new person, so I consider a lot of the stuff I did when I was younger. I mean, it is still quite big achievements, but I don't like to be a boastbuster or a tricksy around people. I try to be a very humble artist, and try and encourage people, not like scare them away.
Did I just typed it in our chat here. Is that correct right there?
No, it's Joshua Whitehouse. I'm not sure. It's Joshua. I'm sorry. I did say earlier that I do have a bit of a hay fever as well, so my throat is a little bit chesty at the moment. I do apologise.
Gotcha. Joshua Whitehouse. Okay.
Yes, my real name. I still prefer Jowybean, mind you, but you know, if you want to see the earlier stuff, that's the best way you're going to find it again, because otherwise you'd have to go through my entire DA gallery, and we're going back a couple of years when I upload this stuff. Although I might start uploading it again if anyone anyone's actually interested in seeing what I was doing before then to see the stuff I was doing when I was 9 and 10. Because it is something special, I will be honest. It is something different that you wouldn't see from any other 9-year-old at that time.
Alright, I think I found it. Alright, that's something to look through later. I think I'll drop it in the chat, or I'll put the name in the chat.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll just stick to calling you Jowybean if that's what you prefer.
Yeah. Well, it's just because, that's also my business name. It's like my freelance business name. I just think it's a much cooler name as well, personally.
And were there any other causes that you have done art for, or would consider doing art for? I didn't make that quite clear.
Remembered there was one other thing I did when I was younger, and it's why I actually met the Queen and actually gave her one of my pieces. I can't believe I forgot about that. I met like Her Majesty a while, like when I was 9, because I was the official artist for the opening of a place here in Birmingham, which is like a tourist destination called Millennium Point, and I was like the official artist to open it, and I like presented Her Majesty the Queen with a piece around her family and stuff with my own little cartoons and characters. I still remember the first thing she ever said to me when she met. So, did you do this? That's exactly what she said the first time she met me. And if the Queen is listening, I respect it on you, Your Majesty.
That's. Did you do this?
Yes, that's exactly what you said. Exactly that's what you said, and that's after like let's go back quite a few years as well. But I still remember the day because she was also wearing pink, so she was quite flustered as well. But yeah, I mean that was another like one of the biggest achievements next to the 9/11 thing. I mean I did other little things for charity, but that was quite a big achievement because it was commissioned by the royal family, and you know it's hanging up. I just imagine it's like somewhere hanging up in Buckingham Palace. Just a very small, like, little cartoon, like drawing of her next to like a giant piece of whoever the king was of England before. I'm very terrible at my history. I do apologise to any historians who are listening. I just get that mental image every time I think about that piece.
I hope I haven't forgotten anything.
Deal?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Oh, now I do. You suddenly got way distant.
That's what I get for doing things.
Doing things. How dare you do things?
No things shall be done. I think I've covered everything. We've got your medium, what got you into it. Let's see, why you enjoy doing what you do. Yep.
As I said, just enjoy doing pretty pictures and stuff, and there isn't like any more depth to it. I mean, I am trying to like expand my own style of illustration outside of ponies and stuff, because I'm one of those artists that, you know, I don't rely on ponies like as all like my be all and end all. And I'm pretty sure other artists in the fandom are the same as well, because it's important for you to have like a collected taste, because otherwise, you know, for me, if I was just drawing pictures of Twilight Sparkle day in and day out, I'd be like, this is so boring. What am I doing with my life? Well, sometimes I say that when I'm doing
diversity.
Art, but...
Yeah, diversity is very important. I'm glad that you're already branching out and have all these other interests. I've seen artists just burn out so quickly doing only pony.
Well, exactly. Well, that's partly the reason why I wanted to do more title cards for other shows as well. You know, as I said earlier, with like stuff like anime and whatnot. Because for one, I've really got into that. I mean, I used to really hate anime a couple of years ago. I couldn't stand it. And then after I saw stuff like Akira during my time in university, and then I saw other stuff like this year, I've been like, okay, now I get why you guys really love this stuff. I get it now. Yeah. And my room is kind of filled with a bit of anime posters now already. Just in the last 5 or 6 months.
Fandoms, what would we do without them?
Well, we always got the standby questions.
We are getting on there in the interviews.
Standby questions.
Yes, questions we must ask every interview without fail, or else our chat room will beg us to. So, Jowybean, if you had a choice, would you go with the party cannon or the base cannon?
Partly because I'm very big in music and stuff, and loud music and whatnot. I mean, I've got a very big collection taste in music. I would go with possibly the bass cannon, because then I could just play all my random music from my iTunes library to everyone and just like scare them or even just blow them all away. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of a band called Ween, because they're like my newest craze at the moment. Ween, they're like an art house rock band from like the 90s and stuff. Did like a lot of trippy stuff, but they were actually really good musicians. It takes a few listens getting into their music, but I would just be playing some of their random music with the bass cannon, just possibly scaring quite a few people off. Because most of the time there's a lot of noise. They're sort of like a band in their early albums. They did a lot of like noise rock and stuff. But they are definitely worth a look at, Ween, if you want to hear something completely like weird and just something different, just a completely different band. But that's what I sort of do. I mean, I would listen to just so much different music. I'm not even. I've even got like African tribal music and like Tibetan music on my iPod, because I'm just inspired by, again, everything around the world. So I would just love to have the bass cannon and just go and play like African tribal music at like a con or something, and just see the reactions I get, and just wear glasses saying deal with it.
Okay, then the second question that we have is muffins or cupcakes?
Maybe muffins, because they didn't scar me for life like cupcakes did, but...
That sounds like an interesting story.
Cupcakes destroyed my life. I'm much more of a fan of muffins, honestly. And not just because of Durfee, I'm much more a fan of muffins. The muffins for me.
Okay, and Neil, do you want to field the third question?
Yes. Chimichurri or cherry chonga?
Cherry chonga, I'd say. Just because I think it's fun to say.
That, sir, is incorrect. The answer is chimichurri chonga.
I just sorry. I think I realised what I made a mistake there. Sorry, I just zoned out. It went moon and then just came back.
That's fine.
It happens a lot.
So we have to ask, favorite main six pony and favorite non-main six.
Okay. I don't usually like this question because I'm one of those bronies that say I like all the characters, but I do say Rarity because I've got plushes and quite a few pieces of art on her on my wall, and also a lot of my favourite episodes are with her in it. Also, I think I'm very much like her because I can be quite a generous person. When I started out as an artist, and I would do. Yeah, when I started out as an artist, I did tend to like cheap myself out and be very generous about the prices, especially around a lot of my friends. And so, I mean, I'm not very generous now, but I'm still a very generous person so I always say I'm very much like that element. And I'd say that my favourite of the non-main six. Difficult question. Because I like them all. I love them all. I can't decide. Sweet Belle. I can't. And maybe even Luna as well, to an extent. But I can't think of any other characters off the top of my head. Well, I can, but I just don't want to say one or the other because I like them all in their own little way. Because I sort of change. It's all like with episodes. It changes for me. Sometimes it will be like Twilight was my favourite after the finale, and then it sort of changed back to Rarity recently. So it sort of swaps between each character, sometimes for me every few months. But Rarity mainly, just because I've got a very good plush of her. So that.
Which I don't know about you, but I hope they're gonna distribute out there. But I can't wait for Fourth Dimension to get their product line out there. I don't think I've gone a week without saying that, but man, I hope that gets really big.
They are pretty impressive. I wouldn't be denying. I mean, even if they're not all the characters they're doing, I'd still be impressed with some of the. I mean, I don't have a lot of pony merch to begin with, so it'd be nice to have a couple more plushes around, just to make Rarity feel not alone.
I think I'll have to put on my nerd glasses real quick and ask you: do you play the card game?
No, I don't. I'm actually. I'm gonna sort of be truthful here, I'm actually not really a big gamer. I'm not really a card player. But I'm just revealing everything I'm not now as a geek. I'm like a big geek in animation, but I'm not really a gamer or a card player because I spend all my time drawing. Pretty much. I mean, I'm even really behind on all my YouTube channels I used to watch. I mean, there's like only one YouTuber I still watch, and that's Nerd Free because he's really awesome and one of the most funniest British gamers ever. But apart from that, I'm just really far behind on everything else internet-wise because I'm always drawing all the time. I'm pretty sure after this interview, I'll go straight back to drawing something else and maybe even work on some of the things I talked about today. Because that's the sort of artist I am. I don't go to sleep. I just keep working. I'm a workaholic. If I was a pony in the Quester, I'd be the most boring. I would never be outside with all the other ponies. I'd just be hanging out in my studio drawing all the time.
I think just one more for me. That should be it. You said you're a big music guy, so I want to know, what is your favorite song from the series?
Ooh, favorite song from the series? I would have said the State Area, but that song drove me to insanity because how many times I played it to the point of where I was singing it when I would work, which was really embarrassing, even though no one else was around to hear it. But I don't want to now. But I'd say that song. But I would say maybe I did say earlier maybe all of the Pinky Pride soundtrack pretty much because one is Weird Al, and who doesn't like Weird Al, and two, it's just really good music. I can't think of. I actually can't remember most of the songs from season 4. I feel bad about saying that, but. I would say that maybe the Pinky Pride at the moment, but again, it's sort of like the same with the episodes and the characters. It changes, varying. Sometimes it will even change if I'm listening. Because when I was actually working on the Pinky Pride title card, I was actually listening to that soundtrack over and over and over again to sort of keep me stimulated when I was drawing that particular title card, which was a lot of fun to do, by the way. But yeah, I'd say maybe the Pinky Pride because I have played that the most on my iTunes in terms of my pony music. I mean, I do have like a music of all the Brony music, but I haven't really paid attention to a lot of the music scene in a very, very, very long time. But yeah, I'd say Pinky Pride is for the win for me. All the songs in that.
All right then. I guess that's a good enough place to wrap up. First off, I want to just give you a big thank you. I thought that Earthworm Jim Lyra was probably the most hilarious thing to bring back my past for that.
Completely forgot about that. Wow.
That was complete. That was the most awesome thing I ever saw.
So well, so.
And you said you wanted to.
For her to be in the game.
And you said you wanted to give a shout out here, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I just give a shout out to a couple of my friends because I go to the Birmingham meetup here, and two of my friends, I'll just say their names, their nicknames, Fez and Stable, have started a podcast called Null Void. I hope I pronounced that right. It's NULLNVOID, in case you couldn't quite hear it. But if you go and check it out, I mean, if you actually go on my DA page, I've actually got a link to the description to their YouTube channel as well. They're basically doing a geek podcast, but if you want to hear two much more hilarious British guys than myself talking about geeky stuff and just games and stuff, then I guarantee you've got to go and check out these guys, because I'm not just saying it because they're my friends, but seriously, you're going to get a good laugh out of these two guys. They're like the best, like they're some of the best bronies and the most like craziest bronies I've met so far. But yeah, I wanted to give that a shout to Null and Void, and obviously if you want to check out all my stuff, just for a shameless plug, you can just find it on just type in Jowybean, pretty much. It's all from there. So yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Again, Jowybean, I'd like to thank you very much for jumping on here and letting us do this interview. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you will be able to find a link to his DeviantArt down in the description. Also, if you just type in jowybean.deviantart.com, you'll definitely run up against his incredible artistry. Be sure to check it out. Like he said, he did more than just pony, and a lot of it is awesome. I keep seeing the Kill a Kill art come out, and it's just
I've got plans for my Guru Lagon art yet, dude. You haven't seen that yet.
Oh man!
I've got a lot of plans for that. Let me tell you.
If you ever get a hold of Attack on Titan, that art's gonna be.
I don't even want to.
My friends have been telling me to watch Attack on Titan. I'll watch it one day. I'll watch it one day.
If you want to get
maybe
hooked,
even later on tonight.
If you want to get
Depends.
hooked, watch the the one abridged episode that Team 4 Star has done.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway.
Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. So,
It's anything like the Yu-Gi-Oh. Good day.
all right. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and be sure to tune into our show and any other interviews that we might be doing. Of course, we'll be posting them on YouTube as well.